And you killed your audition. You were
Thank you.
Like literally when you watch certain people, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess they'll, go here and there, but like your voice, your confidence, everything. You were in front of Lionel Richie and Katy Perry and who else was the judge?
Luke Bryan,
yep.
Yeah.
What was that like? Were you
nervous?
Were you as confident as you looked?
Oh my God. It was crazy. I felt, well, this is TMI. I just was like having the nervous poops all day. I was like, this is the worst. I was so nervous. And I was there with one of my best friends. He played guitar for me. And his mom and my mom were there. And the nervousness, yes, it came from singing in front of them, but it also came with, what are they going to ask me about my personal life? Like, I was so nervous how they were going to construe my story, how they were going to make my family look. They were trying to, like, back me and my friend Sam, who played guitar for me, into a corner of, like, oh, so you guys are dating, right? And we were like, no, shut it down. Like, we don't want that. So
because they're trying to pull for, like, a story.
Yeah, you just don't know what story they're going to use for you. So my nerves that day came from that. And literally right before I went into the judges, they told me, one of the producers came up to me and he was like, hey, when the judges ask you, why are you doing this? Because they're going to ask you this specific question. Tell them about your brother. But he said it like very insensitively. He was like, tell them about your brother's suicide attempt. And I was like,
God,
what the is that? I was like, I'm literally about to walk into the room. And I just had a complete panic attack. And thank God my friend Sam was there, because he just was like, you don't need to say anything you don't want to. Like, you don't have to say anything. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And, for me, I'm like, I can't. I don't want Alex doesn't even remember what happened to him. I'm not going to start talking about that on live television. What is that? So, anyways, I got into the room and then they asked me, and all I said was, we've had a really hard year. And my brother's like my role model, and I'm really grateful that we're here. And then, eventually they cued the segment in where they came to Maryland and they filmed my family. And that was after the producers were very kind. I had so many phone calls just saying, like, if we're going to say this story, like, this is exactly how it needs to be told. Mm-hmm. I don't want it to seem like the sympathy thing. I don't know. I just want it to be like awareness and hopeful. So anyways, they handled it really well, but the time of the audition, that was like my experience. I didn't even really have time to care that it was Katy Perry, Luke Bryan, and Lionel Richie. I was just like, these are just people. And I think also the guy, sorry, I'm like rambling right now. I also feel like the guy saying the judges are going to say this specific question made me feel like everything was a little scripted. And I don't know if that's the case, but suddenly it felt less like Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, and Luke Bryan were judging me, and more like they're just there and I'm just there and we're all playing a part in this show. Mm-hmm. So I was like, if they genuinely like me, that's a bonus. And I think that they did, but also
but it didn't seem that like genuine, you're saying.
You're saying it was all like puppeted. Sort of.
Yeah, it felt a little puppeted. And then, their reaction was amazing. The whole time I was like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. And then it felt genuine. But then when I got cut, one of the things Katy Perry said in the audition, I don't know if they showed it or not, was, I can tell you've had so much experience performing. And then when I got cut, she was like, have you had any experience performing? And I was like, wait. And you only see them like 3 times, 4 times during the whole process, really. So I just was like, I don't know if they know me. And that's fine. Like, they've got a lot of going on. But it was cool, though. After all was said and done, I went back to watch my friend Walker, who was on the show till like the top 8. And I saw Katy Perry afterwards, and she said, Emma, how's your brother? And I didn't know she knew my name, and I didn't know she saw my audition really. So I was like, okay, that was really cool. That was really nice.
I mean, it sounds like there's still going to be that sort of, even when they're sitting in front of, all these people auditioning, maybe they're also going through the same thing of being told all these things, and then they have to remember.
Yes.
And how are you supposed to remember so many people? But it's kind of like, that's unfair that they said that to you beforehand, and that really bothers me a lot.
Or was it just was it also not enough time to process? Because it kind of told you as you're about to walk in, right? So it's not like you could really truly form what you wanted to say, or be able to say back to them that I don't know if I want to do that. right?
Yes.
Or what was the scenario for you?
I just looked at him and I was like, I think I just started crying. And then he came up to me and he was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't realize, I thought that was like your story. And I was like, no, like, it's fine. I'm not willing to use that as my thing. You know, like, I want to just talk to these people as people. Like, I don't want to talk to them and be like, this is my story. So like, if they were going to pick me to be on the show, I wanted it to be because of my talent, not because of the story. So like, that was the big thing.
How did they even get you to like come up with that? Like, did you have to like list out things in life that was like big for you, and then they kind of helped you build that story? Or what was, like, where did that come from? How did they know about your brother?
When I first auditioned, I sang an original song that was about my brother. And they asked me, like, what's that song about? And I was like, oh, my brother. And then later on in the interview process, because they did a quick interview before they said, you're on to the celebrity judges, they just were like, what's been the hardest part of your year? And it was such a chill conversation with this one girl, Annie. And I was like, oh, Annie, like, it's been a shit show. Like, my family this. And Sam, my friend that was there, was also saying the same thing about his life. And it was so weird because I was like, simultaneously, I don't want to use this as my in on the show. And I've also watched enough TV to know that if you have a story, it'll be helpful.
Exactly what they do.
But then also, I want people to be aware. So it was just this whole back and forth between, what are my intentions? Am I being a bad sister? Like, how do I do this in the most authentic way possible? And I did not feel like it was authentic to immediately let the judges in on this, because I was like, they're probably going to invite my brother in to say hi. And like, I don't want that. I don't want, it was just weird. So I was happy that eventually I could carry out the story as like awareness, a story of hope, and a story ultimately that would help people who are struggling with the same thing. It was nice to share the story with the world, but yeah, I really struggled on whether or not I wanted to tell it.
Was it weird to have, something happen in your family and then all of a sudden have the world know about it?
It was, and it was the first time that we spoke about it openly as a family. If someone dies in your family, then you kind of have to speak about it because they're gone. But if someone's still alive and you experienced a trauma, it becomes a lot more difficult to talk about it because you're still trying to protect the person that's alive. So it's like a loss, but with someone that's still in my life all the time. Mm-hmm. And so the main priority was protecting Alex and making sure that it wasn't, just protecting Alex. And then everybody in my community was so supportive. I think that a lot of people didn't even know what had happened. And so I'm sure it was probably pretty jarring for people to be announced, like to see that announcement in that way. But also it felt like a good way to present the story to people. Mm-hmm. Like if there was going to be a way to put it out there, it felt like the way.